Hacker rule 0. No problem should have to be solved more than once. Once you solve it, put out the solution. So this isn't a solution. This is a video I'm going to make visible to someone special and everybody watching my channel. Let's do this up. When you have to go to the emergency room, you don't have time to get scared. You do, but it doesn't change anything. You run out of options. Yes, I've gone to the emergency room knowing full well it's irrational and stupid to be afraid. I knew exactly what was going to happen, and exactly what happened is what I thought it was going to happen. And it was nowhere near as bad as my fear was driving me. The basal, visceral level of your mind will create irrational fear. Phobia. And that's normal. The only thing worse than that is it's not an emergency and you have to plan for doing something that you really don't want to do, and it's scary and you're crying and you're and I'm just a wimp. So here we go. Hernia. One of the golden varieties of having this kind of injury. That's an injury I qualify it as, not a disease or something. Is when you have one of these, a chronic, not an acute, a chronic hernia, and you've learned to live with it over a decade or so, like I have. I have 2 of them. And you learn everything about it, you know everything about it, and then 2 days ago, something dramatically changed, and it scares the hell out of you. Symptoms of when you absolutely have to go to the hospital right now. Because I have a former friend who will never speak to me again, totally unrelated issue, who went through this. He came to me and said the following: warning, if you can't handle this, don't watch this. He, not me, was throwing up fecal material. He couldn't relieve himself anymore. He had horrible gas, and then it stopped. And he's in massive amounts of pain, and there was a mass forming under his skin in his abdomen that was as big as his fist. I said, you have a hernia. That is a loop of intestine. It is swelling up because it's now a blockage, and it's probably dead tissue. There are no choices. You have to go to the hospital right now. It cannot it can't alleviate itself, otherwise known as reduction. Reducing, self-reducing or reducible hernias are where your body, you can just put a little pressure on it, it'll go right back into your abdomen. This is caused by a defect built into a human being's body, we all have them, that is just big enough that the intestine can loop its way out, because somehow that makes sense. Anyway, these symptoms that I just mentioned are the ones, any one of them. If you're throwing up horribly, if your digestive system empties out all in one shot, if you're in agony, if you feel a lump under the skin and it keeps changing shape especially. Now if you have a chronic one, it forms a pouch. Your body will just form a network of fibrous material and seal it in and just act like it's supposed to be there. Like me, you can go through 10 years with this kind of stuff. The trouble is that eventually, in most cases, unless you live a very charmed life, in which case you'd be going into the hospital and getting it all done, that sac, which is really icky to say it, stops working and it splits open or it changes. It's not caused by you. In my case, it might have been me coughing, sneezing, or getting bumped, or running into something, or coming to a full stop on the bike too fast. Anything can trigger it. It doesn't matter. What matters is it'll suddenly get larger, and in this case 2 to 1 in volume, accurately measured, not just using a ruler. There's an algorithm for this. I'll bring it up in another video if somebody wants to know. Anyway, I've just done for the last 24 hours or so, it's more like 2 days, but 24 hours of really concentrating on it, a real evaluation of my own health by not letting myself get scared. When I'm scared, I can't think. When you're scared, you can't think. If it's an emergency, you don't have time to get scared, so you can think fairly clearly. But when you've got some advance notice, you're going to get scared. I'm sitting in a corner crying, trying not to cry in front of people. I'm getting panic attacky. The procedure I did is very simple. I let my digestive system empty out, eat a liquid diet, and try to get the thing to self-reduce. And it won't reduce, but it's not hurting. And my digestive system is still working because after eating a bunch of stuff that's basically pureed food with water, a couple hours ago, my digestive system produced, and that means that the digestive system is not shutting down, it's not in revolt, it's not walking around with little signs saying we're on strike. My digestive system is still working. That's the big thing. Haven't thrown up, haven't felt like it. The only reason I felt faint was because I was scared. Not in massive pain yesterday. It was annoying, like a bruised kneecap pain, and I took a painkiller, and I took an anti-inflammatory type painkiller, so it would reduce what is probably the problem. That's the other part of this little test I did, where I made it to where the inflamed or irritated part of the tissue would stop being just long enough for me to be able to do a decent evaluation. The evaluation that a doctor would do, yes, I've looked up how to do this, involves, can you apply pressure without pain? The fact is, I can, but only adjust. Can you reduce it? No. It's not reducible. The body part that's supposed to be inside your body isn't going to go back in. Next, is it changing? Maybe. We at one point towards absolutely have to go into the hospital. Have I thrown up? No. Is my digestive system not working? No. So that's not a point. Visceral level. Are you freaked out and scared? Yes. Panic attack stuff is a symptom because your body's telling you, you're dying. You're about to go into shock. The reason you're going into shock is as a defense mechanism when you're about to die. Part of that can be panic attacks. Full disclosure, I've had 2 panic attacks in my life. This wasn't a panic attack, but I felt faint. If you feel faint from something that should be a physical thing, like a medical problem, and you can just sit down like this, and it goes away in 2 minutes, that's not a symptom. So at this point, this is my evaluation, done by a complete amateur and an idiot. Don't take my advice. Don't. I'm not in an emergency situation, which means, of course, my fear is going to get in the way of me going to the hospital. Second, it's $2,000 to $5,000 worst case scenario. If you get the laparoscopic method, where they make really tiny incisions and put everything back the way it's supposed to be and then patch up like a bad tire, and if it's done by somebody who does this so often, he's like, oh God, do I have to explain this again? You have an almost 100% chance of success. It'll take a half hour, 15 minutes sometimes if the person's really, really fast at it. If it's uncomplicated, meaning it's not an emergency, it's even easier and cheaper, and every bit of fear you have is completely unfounded, unless you don't go to the hospital. Solve a problem for everybody, not just for yourself. Yes, it's kind of a pep talk to myself. If you're thinking of dealing with a hospital visit for anything, glasses, anything that is commonly occurring, that is literally something they yawn about when you come in freaking out, don't think about it. Literally. Consequences of not treating this. Now, I've spent over a decade with these things going on. They haven't changed. They get irritated, whatever, but I'm okay. Again, 2-to-1 volume change, and pain that happened and then tapered off just the way it's supposed to. That's when you have to have it fixed. It's no choice. Hey, maybe get a 2-for-1 deal if you have a double hernia like me. The point of this is, I'm intellectually capable of understanding that I'm not going to die. Obviously, I mean, that doesn't even enter my head. I don't want to be unconscious because I'm scared of being unconscious. I'm scared to be on anesthesia. I am terrified of it. I have avoided anesthesia for my entire life. Well, mostly. Last time I went to the hospital, they wanted to put me unconscious, and because I would be under anesthesia, it's more expensive. That's when it gets to be $1,000 to $2,000. Literally, most of the cost is the insurance cost, and that you're unconscious with anesthesia. I say to myself, I did it the cheap way, which coincidentally was about $2,000 some odd. The real reason I chose the cheap route, I'm going to say it, is I'm a chicken shit. I'm scared to death of being put unconscious. You could do nothing to me and put me under anesthesia. I'm still going to be afraid. It doesn't make any sense. I've been knocked unconscious. Seriously knocked unconscious. I've had all sorts of horrible things happen to me. But being put unconscious so I won't feel pain and I won't twitch so the knife goes the wrong way scares me more than laying on a table while they literally ripped out what felt like the devil's own hand. So if any of you are watching this and you're feeling the same things, completely rational. Totally. No, it's not. Go to the hospital. And on that note, to a certain special someone, I'm going to make a request. It has to be done eventually, and it's getting in the way of me thinking and doing anything. On a visceral level, it's messing with me. Fully functional, minor amount of pain. The most pain I feel is if I bump my leg. But I know what's going on, and it has to stop going on. So I'm going to be requesting help from a certain someone. Nothing to be afraid of. Seriously, I want to go into a hospital on a Monday, not a Saturday and Sunday, when everything is busted in town, because that's how you have to do it. If you're going to go to a hospital, even an emergency room, go in on a Monday. Don't do it on Saturday and Sunday, because everything happens on the weekend at night. Go in early in the day. The amount of change from the stereotypical weekend at night terror fest that you felt the last time you went to the hospital for anything will be completely flipped on its ear. You'll walk in, yeah, I just need you to put me unconscious for the period of time it takes to fix this. The next steps. It's more expensive for them not to use the mesh method, because the method is real simple. Okay, here's your abdomen. Here's the defect that proves that God's an incredibly good engineer. Here's the wiggly part that comes out. They push the wiggly part back in, and they literally push in. I'm not kidding. It looks exactly like the patch they use to repair a radial tire. Yes, I've got to flatten my spare tire. Anyway, and then you're done. I mean, it can be done very, very fast. In some countries, they even use a piece of mesh that is used, no joke, it just happens to be chemically the same kind of mesh that is used for making mosquito screen, which is a bug. The stuff they use for medical purposes is specifically designed for this and costs $500. That's $500 out of the $2,000. Again, most of this is labor cost and insurance, because you're being put unconscious and stuff. You can talk to doctors if you want to and ask them about it. Yeah, it's the dumb stuff. It's the lawyerisms. You're basically paying for every other incident where somebody sued incorrectly or got ticky about, warning, the failure, it's not a failure rate, it's complication rate. Usually you end up with some sort, well, no pain at all, no effect. But 10% of the time, which is a ridiculously low number, you end up with continually sensations of something, guess where? In your abdomen, which is just as bad as what you have when you have a hernia. But you know that nothing is going to come out, and you're not going to have a strangulated anything or other, or a compartmentalized something or other, or a myocardial infarction or whatever. You're not going to have any of these things. Possible complications if you're thinking about this. Yeah, you can have blood clots that go to your brain. You can die from this. Seriously. If you're still able to digest things for 24 hours and you're still waiting for a hospital visit, and you're not in pain that next day, that's not a sign of the end. That means that your body's adapting to it and you're going to be okay. Just be very careful and know in your head and heart, like I do today, you're not going to die. And also realize, whether you want to admit it or not, if you knew for a fact that you would die if you didn't drag yourself to the hospital, which I've physically done a couple of times, you wouldn't think about it, you'd be in less fear. Pain or fear? Which one would you rather deal with? Unfortunately, I've been an idiot most of my life and dealt with pain. So I'm going to be asking for a little bit of help this week. A lot of help. An irreplaceable amount of help. Because fear is the mind killer. Never realized that until the first time it happened about 20 years ago. And a couple of years later, and a couple of years later. It's the same thing over and over again. If you have your health, you have everything. If you don't have your health, you have nothing. So I just thought I'd put that out for everybody watching. And if you're curious, that's why I haven't been really posting any videos recently. And I'm going to be fine one way or another. It doesn't matter at this point. I'll be fine. Thanks for watching. Have a good day. Good luck with that.